Battle through the heavens. The attempt to break through the sonic wave checkpoint had gradually reached the end by the time Xiao Yan returned to the rock platform. The thing that caused him to be stunned was that 3 people had successfully reached the mountain top during this short period of time. Thus, there were 9 people on the rock platform. However, after putting aside the 2 spots for the gold-swallowing mouse, there were only 8 spots for the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool remaining. In other words, there was 1 person among the 9 of them who would lose the opportunity to enter the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. Xiao Yan's heart contained some doubt as he fell deep into thought. A moment later, he looked at the somewhat weary-looking gold-swallowing mouse and immediately understood the reason. He let out a bitter laugh. It was unexpected that the people behind him had gained such a great advantage after he had used the lion-tiger gold-shattering roar. Of course, even though these people possessed such a good condition to cross the checkpoint, they still needed to possess some strength. Those 3 people earlier all had the strength of a 7-star Dou Huang and could not be considered weak. Xiao Yan sighed helplessly in his heart. Xiao Yan's gaze turned to a figure that was miserably flashing on the rock stairs. He shook his head slightly. This person's strength was only around that of a 6-star Dou Huang. His chance of success of passing through this mouse-tied sound array was not very high. Those people on the platform, who had failed before, also sighed when they saw that this person's efforts were futile. Their gazes bitterly looked at the mountain top. There were already more than 8 people there. In other words, they no longer had the chance to ascend to the peak. The challenge is over. For those who failed, there will be someone to send you off the Heaven Mountain. Jin Shi glanced at those unwilling people on the platform while his faint voice announced their fate. Xiao Yan's group hurriedly bowed when they saw Jin Shi appeared. They clearly knew that regardless of who it was, whoever offended the people from the gold-swallowing mouse tribe would likely end up suffering for it. Jin Shi nodded. He slowly landed on the ground before walking toward the deep parts of the mountain peak. Follow me. Xiao Yan and the others did not dare to slight Jin Shi after hearing this. All of them swiftly followed at his pace. The colorful energy tide was just like a wave as it spread out again and again, an extremely majestic scene. Xiao Yan's group swiftly jumped through the strange rocks while they endured the energy wave in the sky. This continued for a while, their footsteps followed Jin Shi before gradually coming to a stop. All of them slowly climbed a steep slope. The scene that appeared in front of them immediately caused them to inhale a breath of cool air. That is the Heaven Blood Pool. However, now is not the time when the energy tide is at its peak. When it reaches the peak, the entire mountain range's energy will gather at this volcano. At that time, the blood pool will also overflow. All of you only need to enter it at that time. Jin Shi pointed at the pool at the middle of the volcano and faintly spoke. Everyone's heart involuntarily leaped when they heard this. Their eyes also became a lot hotter when they looked at the pool. If they could soak in it, they would be able to save an unknown number of years of tough training. The expressions of quite a number of people changed a little upon hearing these words. It was unexpected that there was such a danger within this Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. Xiao Yan's gaze swept over Jin Shi. His heart suddenly understood something. No wonder Xiao Yan felt that he had accumulated an injury. From the looks of it, the injury should be related to this fire poison. Additionally, there are 9 of you presently here. In other words, one of you will not be able to enter the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. You will have to decide who cannot enter. Jin Shi raised his eyelids and slowly said. Find EU chapters on nve/lba.com. Jin Shi was unconcerned about their reaction. He had just turned around when his footsteps suddenly paused. His eyes turned to Xiao Yan and said, "Follow me." Everyone present, including Xiao Yan, was startled when they heard this. Immediately, they threw some unusual gazes at him. Jin Shi was already standing with his hands behind his back when he saw Xiao Yan arrived at the rock pavilion. His gaze looked to the colorful energy tide in the sky. He was even able to see that gray-clothed, old man whom he had met at the maze earlier within the rock pavilion. Jin Shi smiled toward Xiao Yan when he saw him arrive. He glanced at Jin Gu before speaking, "Little fellow, do you know why I have called you over?" Xiao Yan was quiet for a moment when he heard this. After which, he immediately asked, "Because of Elder Jin Shi's internal injury." Xiao Yan clearly sensed Jin Shi's body tremble slightly the moment he spoke. Jin Gu, on the other hand, laughed out loud and said, "See, I already said that this fellow is not an ordinary alchemist. I am able to see a little." Xiao Yan slightly nodded. "Are you confident you can treat it?" Jin Shi took 2 steps forward and inquired in a deep voice. "I can take a look." Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment and unceremoniously sat down in front of a rock table. After which, he pointed at the rock chair beside him. Jin Shi's mouth twitched upon seeing this, but he could only obey and sit down. Xiao Yan grabbed Jin Shi's arm. His eyes narrowed while a thread of spiritual strength swiftly entered his body. Xiao Yan continued his probing for a while before he finally slowly opened his eyes. The expression in them was somewhat solemn. "How is it?" Jin Gu by the side hurriedly asked. "The fire poison has entered the body and seeped deep into the bones. This is the first time that I have seen such deep-seated fire poison. It is extremely difficult to expel it." Xiao Yan withdrew his hand and shook his head. His gaze involuntarily contained some pity when looking at Jin Shi. Were it not because of this fellow's great strength, it was likely that he would have turned to ashes from this fire poison. Xiao Yan rubbed his finger gently over the table when he saw the appearance of these two. A moment later, he finally said, "Although it is extremely difficult to expel, it is not completely without a solution." Crack. Xiao Yan smiled, but did not reply. His gaze slid to the area outside of the rock pavilion, appearing unformattable. Schwa. The gaze that was looking away from the rock pavilion seemed to have instantly turned back. Xiao Yan's eyes had also become extremely heated at this moment. He did not hesitate as a heavy word was uttered from his mouth. "Agreed." Jin Shi heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing Xiao Yan's words. He exchanged glances with Jin Gu by the side. He hesitated for a moment before he slowly uttered, "The Heaven Blood Mountain Pool does indeed possess some miraculous effect of aiding one to break through the bottleneck. However, the chances of this occurring are not very great. Moreover, it is only effective to some experts who have remained at the peak of the Dou Huang class for some time. However, looking at your strength, it is likely that it has only been a short period of time since you advanced to a 9-star Dou Huang. Hence, even if you enter the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool, it would be quite difficult for you if you intend to rely on it to break through to the Dou Zone class." Xiao Yan nodded. He also felt some doubt within his heart. He valued this Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. Otherwise, he would not have taken the risk of being captured by the Wind Lightning Pavilion to head over to this place. What method does Elder Jin Shi have in mind? Xiao Yan's finger gently tapped on the rock table. He suppressed the earlier turbulence in his heart as he softly inquired. The bitterness in Jin Shi's face had become quite a lot denser when his words reached the end. Could it be that the Heaven Mountain fire poison within Elder Jin Shi was obtained from that place? Xiao Yan's expression gradually changed as he asked. Jin Shi sighed and nodded. Even with Elder Jin Shi's strength, you were unable to withstand the corrosion of the Heaven Mountain fire poison. Xiao Yan has only the strength of a 9-star Dou Huang. How will I be able to endure it? Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned as he spoke. Xiao Yan's eyebrows were involuntarily lifted when he heard this. Ever since he had entered the Heaven Eye Mountain, he had never revealed the heavenly flame. How did this Jin Shi know that he possessed one? The noses of our gold-swallowing mouse tribe are extremely sharp. We also have an ability that can sense the energy within one's body. It is not the first time that I have seen a heavenly flame, and it is only natural that I am aware of the frightening scent of this thing. Jin Shi grinned as he replied, aware of the doubt in Xiao Yan's heart. Jin Shi slightly tilted his head. He glanced at Xiao Yan and said, that place is an area originally discovered by us, the gold-swallowing mouse. In order to open up that place, quite a number of gold-swallowing mice have ended up dying. Hence, that place can be considered a secret location to our gold-swallowing mouse tribe. Even Feng Qing Heir and the others are not aware of it. What do you say? Xiao Yan crossed his 10 fingers. He mused for a moment. Only then did he raise his eyes and look at Jin Shi. He said, all right, but I will only help Elder expel the poison after I successfully come out from the Heaven Mountain blood pool. This is the Heaven Eye Mountain, the territory of the gold-swallowing mice. With Elders Jin Gu and Jin Shi present in this place, you will not need to worry about the little me fleeing, do you? Xiao Yan chuckled. There was a faint threat at the end of his words. However, Xiao Yan merely grinned. Although the Heaven Mountain fire poison in Jin Shi's body was serious, it was not completely impossible to expel it. Jin Shi waved his hand when he saw that Xiao Yan did not object. A gold light flashed to Xiao Yan. There is a spatial barrier that is placed by my gold-swallowing mouse tribe at the bottom of the Heaven Mountain blood pool. You must rely on this thing in order to enter it. Jin Shi said. This is the best, you should return first. The peak of the energy tide will be arriving soon. At that time, the Heaven Mountain blood pool will swiftly fill up. All you need to do is enter it at the most opportune time. Jin Shi said. Xiao Yan also beamed when he heard this. He stood up and cupped his hands to the two before turning around, walking out of the rock pavilion. He headed toward the volcano's mouth. Stop nagging. Even with your strength, you have also been injured by the blood pool, leaving you like this. It is likely that the other tribe members will die on the spot if they head down. Although it is a treasure ground, it is also a fatal place. Jin Gu curled his mouth as he spoke. Although I ended up getting the fire poison all over my body, I advanced from a 5-star Dou zone to a 7-star Dou zone within these short 10 years. This speed is many times faster than in other places. I can be considered to have not lost out. Jin Shi smiled as he replied. If you didn't meet Xiao Yan, it is likely that you would not have lived for 3 more years. Even if we are able to invite a Tier 7 alchemist from the Central Plains over, it is likely that the price will be even higher than if we hire him. Jin Shi sighed after saying those words. His sigh contained a little unwillingness. Guarding a treasure that they could not use. Such a feeling was the thing that really caused one to become miserable. 8 figures were standing on a slope near the mouth of the volcano. An argument was occurring. All of you should stop arguing. There are only 8 spots, yet there are 9 of us here. I say that we should just allocate the spots based on the level of our strength. The one who is weakest should voluntarily withdraw. What do you say? A white-clothed man, who had an evil appearance between his brow, swept his gaze over everyone before it finally landed on Nalan Yanran. He laughed. All you did is borrow the strength of others. What ability do you have? Being someone else's exclusive property and allowing others to play with you just for the Heaven Mountain blood pool is not worthwhile. The white-clothed man coldly laughed. Feng Qing Heir, Mu Qing Luan, and the 2 others did not join the present argument. With their strength, no one would dare point their eyes toward them. Hence, their gazes were all thrown to the mouth of the volcano. It seems that the discussion is not going smoothly. Upon hearing this voice, even Feng Qing'er and the three others swiftly turned their eyes over. They stared at Xiao Yan behind Nalin Yanran, and their eyes contained unusual emotions. "Allow me." Xiao Yan smiled slightly to Nalin Yanran. After which, he slowly stepped forward, staring at the white-clothed man. An iciness was revealed in the smile on his face. "Do you think that it is better for her to withdraw? Is there anyone else who thinks this?" Xiao Yan turned his head. His gaze slowly swept over everyone as he softly inquired. "There are only 8 spots, but there are 9 of us here." The corner of the white-clothed man's mouth was pulled when he saw this before he finally cried out. Visit N0VLBIN. For the best novel reading experience. Xiao Yan tilted his head in agreement. He strode forward and the muffled sound of thunder appeared. An afterimage surfaced and his body emerged in front of the white-clothed man in a ghost-like manner. Grog! A mouthful of crimson blood was spat out as the white-clothed man's body flew backwards. It immediately collided with an enormous rock, that shattered into pieces. Now, there are only 8 people left. Xiao Yan's figure appeared. His looked at the collapsed man with indifferent eyes as he slowly spoke. The sudden unexpected change in situation caused everyone present to become startled. By the time they had recovered, they only saw the white-clothed man on the ground. The hearts of everyone other than Feng Qing'er's 4-person group felt a chill. Their gazes contained an additional fear when looking at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's eyes swept indifferently over this fellow. He slowly turned around and the coldness of his face swiftly melted. He grinned to everyone else and softly asked, "Isn't there the right number of people now?" Feng Qing'er's gaze swept over Xiao Yan's face. She coldly laughed, "You are extremely overbearing. It is likely that my wind lightning pavilion cannot be compared with you when it comes to doing such things. If the Heaven Mountain blood pool wasn't about to appear, I would really like to test you to see just what level you are in this Heaven Eye Mountain. A place external help can't reach." A cold glint flashed through Feng Qing'er's eyes as she challenged. Xiao Yan ignored Feng Qing'er after seeing that she had become quiet. He slowly walked to Nalin Yanran's side, and asked with a beaming look, "Are you all right?" However, reasoning told her that this kind of calm enjoyment would only exist for a short while. Perhaps it would disappear after she left this Heaven Eye Mountain. The corner of Nalin Yanran's mouth was involuntarily lifted in self-mockery when she thought of this. At one point, she could have enjoyed such a feeling for her entire life. However, it was ultimately destroyed by her. Is this considered reaping what I sow? A soft, inaudible voice was gently emitted from Nalin Yanran's mouth. However, it coincidentally entered Xiao Yan's ears. His footsteps momentarily paused before he walked side by side with her to the top of the slope. The thunder sound that suddenly appeared also stunned everyone present. They raised their heads, only to see the colorful energy tide in the sky suddenly ceased spreading. An enormous colorful spiral appeared on the mouth of the volcano. While it slowly spun, Xiao Yan and the others could sense an extremely frightening majestic energy that was wildly gathering in the sky. Is the blood pool about to appear? Joy surfaced in the eyes of Xiao Yan's group when they saw this unusual change in the sky. Following the appearance of this enormous, colorful energy swirl in the sky, the energy around them began to fluctuate. Waves of energy poured into the swirl like colorful cloths, causing the spiraling speed to increase. Powerful Dou Qi surged from the bodies of Xiao Yan's group. Their bodies were just like rocks that stood without moving on the tall slope. Most people who arrived here were considered to be the top people from the younger generation in the northern region of the Central Plains. There was naturally no weaklings among them. Bang! The sudden intense light basically covered the entire Heaven-Eye mountain range. At this moment, the dense fog that permeated the mountain range had become thinner amid this light. The expressions of Xiao Yan and the others changed slightly in the face of this frightening energy light pillar. Their bodies swiftly withdrew. Bang! The light pillar's speed was extremely fast. Within a flash, it violently landed on the volcano's mouth. Immediately, an enormous air wave swept out and the surrounding strange rocks were immediately blasted apart. Raising their eyes, they could see that the mouth of the volcano was permeated with a dense colorful light. A wave of powerful energy, which was astonishingly dense, was rippling within it. Now is the best time to enter the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool, please get moving. Jin Shi's figure drifted over from a distant place before finally landing. There were two large gold-swallowing mice behind him. Xiao Yan glanced at Feng Qin Air and the others, who were wildly charging over. His heart involuntarily laughed. After grabbing Nailan Yanran's wrist from behind him, his body moved and swiftly shot forward. Remember, do not go too deep into the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. You should quickly absorb the energy once you enter. This is an opportunity that is difficult to come by. Xiao Yan quickly reminded Nailan Yanran while he flashed forward. Yes. Nailan Yanran did not oppose Xiao Yan pulling her. Instead, she gently nodded her head. At this moment, the enormous mouth of the volcano was filled with a dense, colorful energy. It appeared exceptionally gorgeous. Moreover, the most attractive thing was the eye-catching red pool in the middle of the volcano. Even from a great distance, Xiao Yan's group was still able to see that the interior of the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool was filled with an unusual red liquid. Xiao Yan could sense that it was full of rich energy. Is that the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool? Discover dated novels on NOV/E/Lbin.co. The size of this volcano's mouth was extremely large. However, Xiao Yan managed to cover the distance within half a minute with his speed. By the time he had hurried over, however, he coincidentally managed to see Feng Qin Air and the others charge into the blood pool, emitting a splashing sound as they did so. Xiao Yan felt somewhat helpless when he saw these fellows being so anxious. However, it was fortunate that his target was the bottom of the blood pool. Otherwise, it would really be fun if he had competed with these people in terms of craziness. It is indeed worthy of being a mysterious place that can aid one in breaking through the bottleneck. The shocking amount of energy gathered is at a level that I am seeing for the first time, Xiao Yan sighed in his heart. He turned his head to Nailan Yanran and smiled as he said, "You should enter. Although you have not reached the peak of the Dou Huang class, soaking in it will still be beneficial to you." Nailan Yanran nodded slightly. She placed the white fox in her hands down gently beside the blood pool. After which, her pretty eyes paused on Xiao Yan's face while she whispered, "Thank you very much, you. If you wish to find teacher in the future, you can perhaps head to the flower sect." Nailan Yanran did not wait for Xiao Yan to question her for more details after she spoke. Her body moved and she plunged into the blood pool like a mermaid. Flower sect. One of the so-called two sects. The mouth of the volcano gradually became calm following the group's entrance into the blood pool. Only the wild wind continued to rage crazily, forming whistling storms in the process.